The mirror in the barbershop framed my reflection like a cruel spotlight, my wife's voice slicing through the hum of clippers. "You're the ugliest man in here, Tom." Her laugh, sharp and brittle, ricocheted off the tiled walls. The other men, strangers with half-shaved heads, froze, their eyes darting to me, then away. My face burned, not from the razor's graze but from the weight of her words, delivered with a smirk that didn't match the warmth I'd once known in her eyes. I forced a chuckle, mumbling, "Yeah, love you too." But my gut churned. The barber, an older man with a steady hand, paused, his scissors hovering, as if he sensed the undercurrent of something darker. I sat rigid in the cracked leather chair, the air thick with the scent of talcum powder and aftershave. My wife, Sarah, leaned against the counter, scrolling through her phone, her auburn hair catching the fluorescent light. She hadn't looked at me since her comment, her fingers flicking across the screen with a rhythm that felt too deliberate. The barbershop buzzed with small talk, sports, weather, local gossip, but I couldn't shake the sting of her words. Ugly. It wasn't just the insult. It was the ease with which she'd said it, like a truth she'd been holding back. I watched her reflection, searching for a hint of the woman who'd once traced my jawline with soft fingers, and whispered I was her world. As the barber dusted off my neck, I caught a stranger's gaze in the mirror, a woman waiting by the door, her dark eyes locking onto mine. She winked, her lips curling into a subtle, knowing smile before she turned and stepped outside. My heart stuttered. It wasn't just the gesture, it was the contrast. Sarah's cruelty, this stranger's fleeting warmth, it jolted me, like a spark in a dark room. I paid the barber, my hands fumbling with the bills, and followed Sarah out into the biting November air. The woman was gone, but her smile lingered in my mind, a question mark I couldn't erase. We walked home in silence, the crunch of leaves underfoot the only sound between us. Sarah's phone glowed in her hand, her thumb moving ceaselessly. I wanted to ask who she was texting, why her face softened at the screen in a way it hadn't for me in months. But I didn't. Doubt had been creeping in for weeks. Her late nights at the office, the way she'd started locking her phone, the perfume I didn't recognize on her coat. Each clue was small, dismissible, but together they formed a shadow I couldn't ignore. "Sarah," I said finally, my voice low, "what was that back there? The ugly thing." She glanced up, her expression unreadable, then shrugged. "Just a joke, Tom. Don't be so sensitive." Her tone was light, but her eyes didn't meet mine. I swallowed the urge to press her, to demand why her jokes now felt like blades. Instead I nodded, my chest tight with a mix of anger and fear. I loved her. God, I loved her. But love was starting to feel like a house built on sand. At home, she disappeared into the bedroom, claiming a headache. I poured a whiskey, the glass cold against my palm, and sat in the dim living room, replaying the day. The barbershop. Her words. The stranger's wink. My mind spiraled, picking apart memories. The way Sarah had started dressing sharper, her sudden interest in weekend work retreats. I'd rationalized it all. Her career was demanding, she deserved her space. But now, each excuse felt like a lie I'd told myself. I noticed her phone on the counter, left behind in her rush to retreat. My pulse quickened. I'd never snooped before. It felt like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. But the weight of her words, the distance in her eyes, pushed me forward. I picked it up, the screen lighting up with a notification, a text from someone named Jay. "Miss you already. Same time tomorrow?" My stomach dropped. I swiped, but the phone was locked. The name Jay burned into me, a single letter unraveling years of trust. I set the phone down, my hands trembling. Confront her now, and she'd deny it. Wait, and I'd drown in my own suspicion. I paced, the whiskey sour in my throat, my mind racing through every moment I'd missed. The late nights. The locked phone. The way she'd stopped saying, "I love you" first. I wanted to believe it was nothing, a colleague, a friend, but the pieces didn't fit. The stranger's wink flashed again in my mind, a cruel reminder that someone could still see me, while Sarah seemed to see through me. The next morning, Sarah left early, claiming a meeting. I followed her. Guilt clawed at me, but suspicion clawed harder. I kept my distance, trailing her car through the city's gray streets, the windshield wipers slapping rhythmically. She didn't go to her office. Instead, She parked outside a coffee shop, one we'd never been to together. I watched from across the street, my breath fogging the car window, as she stepped inside. A man was waiting, tall, sharp-jawed, his smile too familiar as he kissed her cheek. My heart pounded, a dull roar in my ears. It wasn't just a kiss. It was the ease of it, the way her hand lingered on his arm. I didn't confront them. I couldn't. My legs felt like lead, my mind a tangle of rage and heartbreak. I drove home, the city blurring past, and sat in our living room, staring at the life we'd built. Photos on the mantel, her scarf draped over the couch. All of it felt like a lie. When Sarah came home, she smiled, oblivious, and asked how my day was. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but my voice caught. Fine. I said, the word tasting like ash. That night, I lay beside her, her breathing soft and steady, while I stared at the ceiling, replaying the coffee shop scene. I thought of the stranger at the barbershop, her wink a fleeting lifeline in a sea of betrayal. I didn't know who Jay was, but I knew Sarah wasn't mine anymore, not fully. The realization wasn't loud or explosive. It was quiet, a slow bleed of everything I'd believed in. The next day, I went back to the barbershop, needing the hum of clippers, the simplicity of a routine to anchor me. The same woman was there, waiting by the door. She smiled again, softer this time, and slipped a note into my hand as she passed. "You're not invisible," it read, with a phone number. I stood frozen, the paper trembling in my fingers, as Sarah's voice echoed in my mind. "Ugliest man in here." I didn't call the number. I didn't need to. The note wasn't about desire. It was about being seen, when the person who vowed to love me no longer could. I drove to the coffee shop instead, my heart a war drum. Sarah was there, with him, laughing in a way she hadn't with me in months. I didn't go inside. I didn't need to. The truth was clear, a blade through the fog of denial. But as I turned away, my phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Love you. Home soon." The words felt like a final betrayal, a lie dressed in the skin of everything we'd been. I didn't reply. I drove home, the note still in my pocket, and began packing a bag. Not to leave forever, just to breathe, to find the man I'd been before her words, before her secrets broke me.